We're live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 here on Combat Wrestling Network of the Raw and SmackDown Breakdown. I am your host, the nasty one, Adonis Nazario. Today I'm joined by one of the greatest people I know, Nico Suave Regoli, and a new friend of mine, Mr. James Berryman, the madman from Michigan. What's going on, fellas? How are you doing today?
James, you first.
Doing pretty good, man. Just ready to talk about some wrestling, some Raw and some SmackDown, some good shows this week. Definitely worth a watch. I'd say that for both of them.
And I'm just going to sit back here as more of a producer. When we get to the SmackDown stuff, I'll join more into the conversation. But I'm going to let these guys handle the majority of the first half of the convo.
Awesome. Let us do the heavy lifting. Great. Just kidding. Yeah, this week's episodes were very entertaining. Unfortunately, I missed pieces of SmackDown due to the fact that I was working, but my very, very knowledgeable and very fan-heavy friend here, James, is going to be able to fill us in on everything SmackDown, so I thank him in advance for that. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start on Raw. Raw was opened up with a surprise. Brock Lesnar actually showed up, and I think Renee Young had the best line of the week when she said, "Look, he finally came back. It's good to see." With the sarcastic. They were met with a lot of boos and just Heyman being Heyman. We got Brock, and that segment was interrupted by Drew McIntyre, who was interrupted by Seth Rollins and about 75 chair shots across the back. Hell of a way to start off Raw. What are your thoughts about it, James?
So yeah, it was a great promo. When Brock showed up, I was like, okay, serious business here, Brock's back. So, and Paul, I really appreciate, Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins building this up because they're both using logic. He was saying, Seth said, you have a problem with people my size, but then Paul turned around and was like, Brock Lesnar still beat those guys. So it was really, really good. And the other thing I really liked is, they were putting Drew over, which they continue to do. They continue to keep putting Drew over a lot.
I'm a big fan of that.
I agree. Yeah, he's great. So he came out and he was talking about how he's destroying the Shield, with Roman and everything. And when Seth came out, he had a match tonight with Drew, right? And then he goes to WrestleMania to go for the Universal Championship against Brock. And there was really good symbolism there because Seth was standing with his chair, which is almost like the sledgehammer to his Triple H kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And, he was standing there and it was symbolism because he had to go through Drew to get to Brock. And it was almost like he realized that. And then that's when he hit him with 457 chair shots. and then this is what I love about Brock. When he got done with that and the camera showed Brock's face, Brock sold the fear or the surprise at that he was like, oh shit, Seth Rollins is serious. And he got out of the ring. So that right there to me was great. I really appreciated the build up to that. It really makes me even more excited for the match.
Awesome. I figured that Brock was going to set up something towards the end. I know that he didn't just show up for a corny little early promo segment. I knew it was going to pay back later. I'm a big fan of Drew McIntyre. I know we're kind of getting off the whole Seth and Brock thing for a second, but I'm a big fan of Drew McIntyre. I like the way he cuts his promos. I enjoy the way everything he does has a sense of viciousness and brutality towards it. Right? He wrestles very clean. There's not too many mistakes on his part. And I expect big things from Drew McIntyre in the future.
Yeah, me too. They're booking him well. And he's taken every bit of it to heart. I mean, he knows how to get reaction. I mean, all he did was find a clever way to tell the crowd to shut up. Mm-hmm. And they booed the crap out of him, man. So I'm looking forward to what he's got coming, man. He's going to be a big player in 2019.
Definitely. On to the second part of Raw. We had the Demon Baby, who wasn't the Demon, Finn Balor, come out and partner up, surprisingly, with Braun Strowman against Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. That match ended with Lashley leaving Rush in there to take the holy hell beating, and Strowman pinning Rush to get the win for him and Finn Balor. This whole Finn Balor thing, and I said it on last week's show, this Finn Balor thing is leaving a bad taste in me.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if you're familiar with this, James, but there was a long period of time where I didn't watch wrestling. And I was introduced back to it by one of my close friends, and I didn't know who this Finn Balor kid was. So I started doing some research, and whether it's Japan, overseas, Mexico, wherever this kid went, he gets this pop. His wrestling is second to none, in my opinion. And I'm just tired of seeing him wasted week in and week out and not getting the push that I feel he deserves. And a lot can be said for Braun Strowman as well.
Oh, for sure. Sure, man. Look, Finn Balor, man. Like I when you started talking, I was already thinking it in my head. You know, they've gone back and forth with this guy. I mean, tell me why he would. First off, and this is, I know we're discussing Raw, and this kind of goes. It's going to go towards this build and everything. But like, why is he gonna, wrestle Baron Corbin in a squash match at SummerSlam with the Demon King, and he doesn't use that against Brock when the title match at WrestleMania? And this is the same booking. It's this booking that they do with him. Like the same when he beat AJ Styles as the Demon, the next night he lost clean to Kane in a squash match. It's like he gets over with his in-ring ability, and then they bury him. Like they gave him the Intercontinental title. They made him pin Leo, which, granted, Leo's great and everything, but come on, he got the title without pinning Bobby, and then Bobby got it back right away. It just makes Finn look bad. So I agree completely.
Very bad. I honestly think that if there's not a Bobby Lashley, Finn Balor WrestleMania match, and they don't find the way to keep Lio Rush out of it, meaning either in a cage or something where nobody can interfere, I think we need to see Finn Balor versus The Undertaker, the Demon versus the Dead Man. That'd be an awesome WrestleMania match.
I think it could be, depending on where Taker is. It's rough to watch him these days, man.
Yeah.
But I would still be good with that. I mean, he could take the coup de grace. He could. Would he lose? It's the Taker, man, at WrestleMania. The only two people have won. If Finn were to wrestle him, even him being so old, it would give him that. It'd put him in that group, which is, oddly enough, he's the first ever Universal Champion. He should already be in a group, some type of. I mean, I could get down with that. I just want them to do something with him and Braun, because they had this match and it was great. It put Braun over, like a monster. But as far as progressing the story, I'm not any more invested in their story than I was a week or two ago. I'm still just kind of confused with the whole thing.
Yeah, you said, you hit the nail on the head. Confusion. Mm-hmm. When Finn Balor comes out, I am happy because I am a fan. The bell rings, and then I am utterly confused.
Yep.
Where are you going? What do you want us to latch on to? Do you want us to continue to cheer on Finn because this monster Bobby Lashley is finding every underhanded way to get the upper hand? Is that the build to WrestleMania where we finally get a clean pin of Bobby Lashley? Where, I'm willing to go down the road. I just need you to let me know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly.
If I could just interrupt for one quick second.
Oh, look, it's our producer, ladies and gentlemen. Nico Suave Regoli came out okay. What's going on, Nico?
You mentioned, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? And you brought up the comparisons between Finn Balor and Braun Strowman. I don't know why, but this just popped into my head. We know Brock, he'll voice to the backstage people that if there's someone he wants to work with, he will say, I want to work with this person. And we were starting to wonder, like, why is Braun Strowman not getting the Universal strap after so much time? And if I recall, last year's Royal Rumble, it was a triple threat match, Brock defending against Braun and Kane, and Braun landed kind of a hard shot that pissed Brock off, and Braun was just like, oops, I should not have done that. And so then Brock retaliated, and Braun was like shook. So I think from that point on, Brock might have been like, I don't know if I can trust this guy to work with in the ring. Hence why when they did the Crown Jewel event, that might have been why Baron Corbin basically assaulted Braun Strowman before a match could ever take place between Brock and Braun, because maybe Brock was like, I don't want to work with this guy if I can't trust that he's going to be safe with me. That's just a thought from me. I can't really explain like why would Finn bring out the demon for Baron Corbin but not for Brock. But then again, Finn proved that he kind of didn't really need the demon all that much for Brock. But maybe he's like,
but he lost.
Maybe the demon can handle the 2-on-1 situation that Lio Rush brings to the table in this whole thing. And, you know, there's still some confusion as to how many matches are going to be on the WrestleMania card. Like, there's been rumors of 15, rumors of 17 matches, which is crazy. How does anyone going to last that long on such a cold day in New York through that entire thing? You better bring some winter coats if you're going there. But having said that, it wouldn't surprise me if they were going to do that many matches, then there is probably going to be a Finn Balor versus either Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush or The Undertaker. And that both situations would call for the demon because, one, it's the demon against the dead man. Two, it's the demon against two people who have been a thorn in his side for several weeks.
True. It's taking place at a Giant Stadium or MetLife or whatever the hell they call it now.
I think it's MetLife. MetLife Stadium.
All right. For everybody out there who doesn't know, that's not New York. It's New Jersey. I know because I used to live there. Selling it as New York. Give New Jersey its props, damn it.
Yeah, I'll double check. You guys continue the conversation.
Yeah, right before we move on, James, you got any opinion on the whole Lio Rush thing? Where do you want to see it go? I mean, not Lio Rush, on the whole, the whole angle of Ashley, Lio Rush.
I wouldn't mind seeing the Demon at WrestleMania going up against one or both of them. I honestly don't think I'd really want to see him against The Undertaker. The only reason I say that right now is because we got 3 weeks to go and they haven't done anything to build up anything kind of close. So they've been building this story already with Bobby and Finn. Maybe they could just close it out, have him be the Demon King, have it be sort of competitive. All in all, you know what I really want? I want him to win at WrestleMania and I want the story to kind of culminate. But after that with Finn Balor, I would really enjoy if they booked him like he was booked in NXT. That right there would satisfy me.
Okay. I see that.
I think we all would like that. It's just a matter of, and we've seen it with the comparison of the 5 shows between USA and the WWE Network. Raw is the most Vince-heavy controlled show, and it's also considered the worst of the 5. SmackDown, it's still televised, but Vince has less control and less say over what goes on. So it's considered the best of the 2 big shows. And then you go to NXT, 205 Live, NXT UK, all Triple H run properties. And Triple H, he always has a game plan 6 months in advance for what to do. Like even with the Tommaso Ciampa situation where Ciampa got injured, they had backup plans in place because they knew that around WrestleMania season, people get hurt. So they plan ahead for these type of things. And now we have Johnny Gargano taking on. Oh, sorry. You'll find out tonight on NXT TV. But yeah, so. It's always like the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. And that's why the NXT call-ups have not worked out for everybody, because Triple H will formulate a 6-month plan if he has the time to do so. And either he doesn't get that time and then they're lost as to what to do with these guys, or Vince sees the 6-month plan and then just throws it out the window, because that's what Vince does. Yes, I checked. It is MetLife Stadium.
New Jersey.
Can I say something real quick, Nico, brother? I am one of those individuals who does not look up spoilers for NXT tapings. I watch it every Wednesday night and get surprised on purpose because I love the show. So I didn't hear what you said. I plugged my ears, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm
He
spoiler free.
didn't finish the statement. He didn't finish the statement. You're good, brother.
You're good.
Okay.
All right. Moving off the sad story that is Finn Balor's push. We move on to Ronda Rousey showing up with her former mixed martial arts husband, Travis Brown, and being forced to have security. The angle they're working is that Ronda isn't safe for anyone, that she needs to be restrained. And now they're just doing the whole, we're going to have a bunch of no-name wrestlers in black shirts surround you, and there's security to keep everyone safe.
The
How'd
Guardians
that
of
work
the
out?
Independence.
Dana Brooke. Honestly, I really want to say something nice. I really do. I do. I don't want to seem like a Ronda hater. Me and Nico have gone back and forth over the last couple of months over Ronda Rousey, and I enjoy her being bad. If you're gonna market the baddest woman on the planet, with which once again needs to have an asterisk, because I know there's 2 women around there right now who whooped her ass on national TV for real. So you're not the baddest woman on the planet. You know what I mean? I think that's Amanda Nunes, but that's another podcast and another sport. I enjoy seeing this mean side of Ronda. I said it last week when she was in the UFC. A lot of her promos, even though she was saying them with a smile, and it was usually preceded by, I'm happy to be here. This is great for women. It was usually followed by, I'm gonna break this girl's arm. I'm gonna punish this girl. I'm gonna retire undefeated. I don't care who I have to hurt to take that away from me. I enjoy that. Now we're gonna get 3 weeks of cannon fodder with Dana Brooke, I guess.
I don't know. Hopefully the Dana thing is over. I mean, no, I just want to say Dana Brooke played her part so well. She did her thing. Like, she was actually really good in her promo. Mm-hmm. Especially being Dana Brooke. I mean, people already kind of crap on her but she tries, and it's starting to maybe pay off. But she sold for Ronda when she put her in that armbar, the way she flipped over for her and just and she didn't bend her arm to keep it safe. You could tell she was hurting her at least a little bit, Mm-hmm. But yeah, Dana Brooke, man, she impressed me. I hope that she gets something out of this because she really played her part and she made Ronda look like a monster.
Definitely. We were talking about Dana Brooke last week. I think Dana Brooke doesn't get a fair shake. For somebody who was called up as a sidekick to somebody else, and for somebody who has worked as hard as she's worked, I feel like maybe the angle will pay off for her later on down the road. Maybe she'll get in that Money in the Bank, have a good showing there. I have my opinion on the whole women's division in a whole. I think that there's too many talented women in that division in both SmackDown, Raw, NXT, UK, all that, in the WWE universe as a whole. And there's not enough titles for that. I understand that this may sound blasphemous to some hardcores, but I think a version of the women's intercontinental title, find another way to brand it, give them something else. Give them that title before being SmackDown or Raw Women's Championship. And yes, there's a tag team title, but what about those women floating around who are really high caliber in-ring talent that have nothing to do? Like the Ruby Riots of the world, or
situation, because I mean, when she had her title match at the pay-per-view with Ronda Rousey, that wasn't even built at all.
Not at all.
The Dana Brooke title match was built up more than that pay-per-view title match was. So definitely, I agree there. Wow, I think they're gonna test the waters with the tag team championships. I like that they're going on all three brands with them.
Mhm.
You know, they're gonna see how marketable they are on all three brands. Hopefully, see that's what I like titles moving brands, not all of them, but some of them, like moving on to different brands, because then it's gonna give more, you know, surprise factor. You know, like when they show, well, we'll talk about that later when about Sasha and Bailey, but you know, when they showed up in NXT, like it was like, oh my gosh, like that is cool to me. I think we need more of that because I know they're trying to separate Raw and SmackDown and everything, and NXT, for mind you, which I think is a third brand. I don't think it's a move down. I think it's a lateral move.
Yeah,
Or even
I
a move
agree.
up. For sure. Like, man, Sasha and Bailey and all that. And another thing I want to add to what you said about them not booking the women, they put so much emphasis on the women that they do book. You got Becky and Charlotte and Ronda right now on Raw, who are just stealing. Even I'm not saying this in a negative way because they've earned it, but they're stealing the spotlight even from the men.
Mhm.
They're about to hopefully close the show on April 7th. It's 7th, right? Is it April 7th?
It sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it.
Yeah,
and
It is April 7th. It is April 7th.
They put so much emphasis on that story, and that they do lose out on a lot of those Dana Brooke situations, which actually helps that Dana was in the little squash match even.
Mhm.
You know, Leah, like where is the Riot Squad? You know, Nikki Cross. That's another one. Like
That's another one that
where is she?
she's getting these minute promos of sitting in the rafters talking about, I'm free, play with Nikki, play. I want to stand on the sign. So much character is being left. I feel so much character and so much character development is being left on the table. It's being pushed to the wayside for the Becky and Charlotte angle, for the Ronda Rouseys of the world. And I'm not taking anything away from Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda. They deserve to be in the spots that they're in. They deserve to be the main event, and I'm happy for that. But with that being said, when you pump so much into one thing and that one thing comes to an end, now what?
Right.
Now we're supposed to believe that somebody who was barely on TV for the last 6 months is the new big threat.
It seems like they take a step forward and they take a couple steps back too, because you got two of the top SmackDown women's superstars wrestling for the Raw Women's Championship. So you got them building that match on SmackDown over the SmackDown Women's Championship, which still doesn't even have that. That's still not clear with who's going to be wrestling Asuka. But at the Royal Rumble, you know, they put Asuka over huge by having her tap out the man Becky Lynch. You know, so if she's going to do that, which I thought that was great because Becky got her time, she won the Rumble. You know, Asuka, she tapped her out. That put her up. That like brought her up to me to another level. But then what are they? They're doing nothing with it because Becky and Charlotte, SmackDown wrestlers, they're on Raw and they're promoting that match on both Raw and SmackDown. In the Raw, honestly, you said women's Intercontinental title, the SmackDown Women's Championship almost feels like that now.
And you know what? That's the sad part because it's supposed to stand on its own as if you're on SmackDown, that's the end all be all. That's your goal. Women's SmackDown Championship. It's not, it's being marketed as a second fiddle. And unfortunately, I feel like it's being pushed to the wayside because one of the best women wrestlers in the world, hands down, Asuka, doesn't speak English very well.
Right.
I was recently watching Sheamus has a workout YouTube channel.
Yep.
And he was trying to have a conversation with her. And, he had to stop real slow and break down what he was trying to tell her. And even then, she couldn't answer his question or, give a response. So I think, with all the money WWE had, they need to cop that Rosetta Stone. No, for real. Sit her down and be like, listen, instead of going to the gym today, take 2 hours and mess with it.
I mean, they could just all they need to do is give her a talk.
Mouthpiece.
You know what I'm saying? Give her Paul. What is he doing on Tuesdays? You know what I'm saying? Give her somebody. Give her Give her a microphone, someone who can talk for her. And have Brock Lesnar just got paid like $100,000 to go bounce around in the ring while Paul Heyman talked. Like, you know, guarantee you, if Paul Heyman wasn't his voice, he would not even be he'd probably already been out of the loop, you know, because he gets to come in there, bounce around, you know, clothesline some people, F5 some people, and then leave, and he doesn't even have to speak, not one time. They could book Asuka that way, and she's actually there. I don't know.
And we'll dive into that later.
I blame the situation pretty much on the fact that it's a Raw title that's fucking up SmackDown booking. Because, as I've said, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. And
go ahead, Nico. I'm sorry.
And it's like if they had maybe Ronda come to SmackDown every once in a while, I feel like we'd get better booking as opposed to them bringing Becky and Charlotte onto Raw. Because, again, the booking is very frantic and not coherent on Raw. And I don't think the people in the back really understood what they had with Becky, and when they finally did, they tried to make up for lost time, and they overdid it to the point that it stopped being natural, and everyone has kind of just been like, it feels like you've overbooked this, you've overpushed this, and now like the wait for the fight to actually happen has gone on too long that we've kind of just tired on it a little bit. Whereas if you look at Kofi Kingston, they've been able to keep it naturally going, keep that momentum going to the point that nobody's really tired of it yet. No, because like the journey's not over. He's still fighting to get there. Whereas Becky, she got there, then lost it, then got it back, and now it feels like, what is there a point anymore? So like they had the opportunity to have the women's title match, main event Mania, and have the moment be perfect, and they botched it.
We could circle back onto the women's title scene in a second when we hit the SmackDown brand, but we got to move on a little bit here. Our next segment on Raw was a moment of bliss, where we got to walk with Elias and apparently No Way Jose. The interruptions continue.
I love this segment. These are what I live for, man. I love these segments, man. Because every now and then you got a character that pops up like Otis, and oh my goodness, I can never get enough of Otis. You know, every time I see that dude on Raw, and I've watched him on NXT and are great, but man, every time I've seen that guy on Raw, man. And Elias, obviously, he's awesome. He knows what he's doing. Alexa, she, for some reason, is flirting with everybody. It's kind of weird. But yeah, man, the conga line comes out. Who knew that Otis would be out there? And that right there, that does it for me. Like, that could have been some bad promos. Yeah.
His two-step was great. His two-step
could have been
was
some
awesome.
bad promos, and I would have so loved every minute of it, just because I love Alexa Bliss. I think she's great. But yeah, I mean, Elias, he's fantastic. But just that comedy Otis, you know, taki, like, he gets me.
Oh man. I think, and once again, probably gonna have to circle back to this, but I think Alexa Bliss, she's coming off of she had a shoulder injury that it wasn't a major one, didn't need surgery, but it needed a little rehab time. She came back a little early for the Royal Rumble, had a good showing, but you notice she hasn't done much since. I think they're trying to groom her because, in my opinion, I don't think her body can withstand 4 or 5 more years of beating and beating and beating and beating. I don't think she's built for it. I think she has the mind frame. I think she has the talent. I just don't think she has the frame for it. And I may be totally wrong. You know, I may be talking out of my ass.
She is a former fitness model, so I know she got a great physique, but I know what you're saying, like just her frame in itself. She looks, but I mean, they could have said the same about Trish too, you know. I don't know. I mean, but I agree. But I'm okay with her not wrestling so much because like she has more to offer than just her in-ring, even though I love her in-ring. By the way, the new backdrop knee little stomp knee stomp or thing.
That backflip into
yeah,
the
right on him. Oh man, I love that. Yeah, she's awesome in the ring. I think. Well, you know, a lot of people kind of crap on her a little bit. I think she's good, but
I don't think she her in ring is that bad. I mean, you got people like Nia Jax running around hurting people left and right. So before you throw shade at Alexa Bliss, I really think you need to watch that big Samoan chick.
Yeah, I just want to touch on what Adonis said about Alexa might being a little too brittle to sustain 4 or 5 more years. She battled 2 different eating disorders at 2 different times in her life. And Adonis and I, both being MMA fans, we know what the damage of weight cutting can do to the body long term. So it's possible that the same would apply to the damage she did to herself when she was dealing with those 2 eating disorders. And so, like, maybe that's why she's a little more injury prone. Like, those eating disorders and the side effects of them have caught up to her. Only way we'll find out is, like, time. Like, that's how we're going to find out. Is like, how does she deal with the next 4 years? Will she be a little smarter with her training? DDP yoga is like a miracle for people who have had a lot of injuries. So who knows? Maybe some time with those DVDs and she'll be feeling like a new woman.
Yeah, I mean, my whole sports career was cut short because I spent a long time in high school and college cutting weight for wrestling, and it fucked me up come baseball and boxing because I couldn't. I was always feeling weak. When it came down to putting on weight, I would put on weight and it would be unhealthy. And I felt like shit. And it all came from cutting weight the wrong way, eating disorders, all that shit fucks with your endocrine system, your gut bio and all that.
I can see that. Well, no, I mean, it makes sense. A lot of pre-existing things, can change a whole person's career. I mean, look at Daniel Bryan. After every match, he has to go through that whole test. Randy Orton has to do a series of stretches every morning just because of his shoulder problems. And then Brock went through the whole thing with his diverticulitis. Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of, I mean, I know it's not an eating disorder, but it's with your stomach.
Yeah, it falls right into that.
I mean, I could totally see that. I honestly, I forgot all about her eating disorder. Yeah, Nico, that's a good point, man. Maybe they're just being cautious with her, which I'm totally okay with, because
protect your investment.
Yep, I think, she's a good talker. She's a great talker. Yeah. She's got the, yeah.
Since you enjoyed the segment so much, James, why don't you break down the Elias and No Way Jose match for us?
Yeah, the Elias and No Way Jose match. I actually don't remember much of the actual match. I was so into what happened beforehand, I don't remember quite seeing who won the match. I apologize for that. It was a short match. It was a short match. I know. The one thing that I remember from the match is that for some reason, No Way Jose has green hair and green pants, and he looks like someone created a wrestler on 2K19 and just decided to make him green. That's kind of distracting for him, but no, I like No Way Jose. He's, I don't know if he did it in this match, and if anybody, who's watching this pays attention to No Way Jose, he got that fun dancing side, but when he gets that ferociousness, he can tap into that at any moment. He did it in NXT quite a few times. And then Elias, yeah, Nico, maybe, or I don't remember who won this match, to be honest.
I believe Elias was able to pull it out. Yeah, but No Way Jose had No Way Jose really good showing. Everything was clean. That tilt the world forward suplex thing that he does was really clean. Like you said, it was more of a, we have to give Elias something to do other than play the guitar to show that he can still wrestle. Right? It was a quick in and out match, and nothing memorable came from it. The most memorable thing was on the Moment of Bliss when the conga line came out, and you had heavy machinery out there dancing, and everybody looking all nuts.
What I think they're doing, I think they're building up the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but I don't hear them mentioning it a lot, because I figure Elias would be in it, you know, no way Jose would be in it, you know. But I've only really heard a couple people actually, maybe even one, talk about the actual battle royal itself. And it really upsets me that they don't push that thing more. I mean, they got a potential to make that anything. They could make that, you know, a title match the next night on the Raw after WrestleMania. I mean, whoever wins it, you know, I mean, they could do so much, and they're not even building it up. But I'm pretty sure that's what this whole segment was meant for, was just so we can see him in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Yeah, they call it Wrestling Purgatory, and it's sad because I think if you take that Andre the Giant Battle Royal, build a little bit around it, fill it in with guys that, you know, you want to give a little exposure to, but at the same time, you don't really have storylines for WrestleMania for. And like you said, make it, it doesn't even have to be a major title like the Universal or the WWE. It could be for Intercontinental or US title. It could hold some value. And another thing, if it's going to be an annual thing and you're naming it after one of the greatest legends this sports entertainment has ever seen, Andre the Giant, put it on the marquee, make it mean something. Like you said, let have these, you know, up and coming young guys, you know, cut their teeth on it and, you know, make it worth something, make it pay off. Don't have it at the beginning of the night where somebody, you know, you get your name on a shitty trophy at the end of it, and then it's forgotten about 2 weeks later. You know, have that be a feather in a cap, you know, like a Royal Rumble winner or King of the Ring. Hey, this guy also won the Andre Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Make it mean something. I totally agree with you there, James. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, make it mean something for sure. You know, they don't do enough with it, you know, and like you said, it's got Andre the Giant's name on it. It could mean something more. And if you know what, if they're gonna have it on the pre-show, you know, not forget a match Raw, you know, after on Raw or whatever, you know, like if you're gonna have this Andre the Giant Battle Royal on the pre-show, you know that more people watch the pre-show. You know that the whole purpose of having good matches on the pre-show is to get people to sign up for the network. They could have that stipulation. Whoever wins this on the pre-show is gonna go on and face the Intercontinental Champion on the main card of WrestleMania. And then I think that would give it prestige. It would give it meaning, and they could keep it on the pre-show and have it build to something later on in the night that might get someone excited. I almost kind of what the over the budget Battle Royal did for All In. They had that on the pre-show and then flip, you know, and then he got the title shot. Later in the night. I think that is a good a good system to get people, you know, in tune to watch, because they're always just wanting to get people to subscribe to the network.
That's basically what it is. It's a glorified commercial.
Yep.
The WWE Network, brought to you by the Andre the Giant Over the Top Classic Battle Royal. All right. Something that Nico may want to jump in on. Kurt Angle comes out and announces that his retirement match at WrestleMania be none other than
Baron Corbin.
Okay, so while Adonis's Wi-Fi fixes itself, yeah. Why is this happening? Why? Like,
Nico, I think it's a work. I think it's a work.
The way everyone else is sort of getting on Twitter and voicing their disappointment, like even Kurt Angle's wife, Gail Kim, they're both voicing disappointment. More wrestlers on social media. Yeah, I think even Kurt even said so himself in like a backstage shoot or something. Might have been an interview with a publication, but he's like, he wanted something more prestigious than Baron Corbin. So the way it's, I think, now I don't know what John Cena's schedule is currently like, but I thought I heard a rumor somewhere that that Angle was going to beat Corbin at Mania, and then he was going to be like, this is not the way I want my career to end on, so I'm issuing an open challenge. And then you have that singularity. You have that the circle of life. It's coming back around because, like, how did John Cena debut? Answering an open challenge to Kurt Angle.
He should come out in the tights, bro.
I wouldn't go that far. Wouldn't go that far. I'm fine with the George haircut if he were
the same red ones. Dust them up.
He could either make them blue and white, or they're gonna be in jersey, right? He could make them. He could put the team colors on like he used to, and he could come in and he could get into the mic and say, Kurt Angle could say, "What makes you think you deserve a shot?" And then he could say, "Ruthless," and slap him like he did last time. I would mark out if that happened. I'd be happy.
I'm still with him coming out in the red tights, and it could say "Stay Fearless" on the back of him, like Nicky.
Oh my god!
I just have to believe that Baron Corbin is not the end game for Kurt Angle's career, because if it is, someone deserves to be slapped and then fired. Baron Corbin sucks the life out of a room. I hate to say it, but
it's not his fault, though. It's really not his fault.
He gets a lot of slack. He does, Adonis. He gets a lot of slack for a lot of things that's not his fault. And come on. When he got blamed on air for the Raw ratings dropping, and we know it was Vince's writing. Like, everyone knows it was Vince's fault. And they put it on national TV. They said, Baron, this is your fault. Like, I agree, Nico. He's not the greatest. He doesn't have a lot of charisma, but they try to book him in, I think, where he's not in his strong suit. Like, come on. Like, if they made him just because his moveset is incredible. The deep six, that little slide move that he does on the ropes into the clothesline, and then the end of days is just nasty. Like, they could book him differently and everyone would love him, but no, I know what Nico's saying. He's saying that he sucks the life out of a wrestler. It's true, because he doesn't have charisma. You don't want, when he talks, you're like, oh, I want to plug my ears. But, I agree. He shouldn't be Kurt Angle's final match. It has to be a work. He even tried to use the fact that he got the match itself as heat to the crowd. And that right there tells me that it could be a work, because he's using just the fact that he got the match as a way to get booed, and they booed him, because they were like, you suck.
Like, because of this, I'm looking forward more to Braun Strowman murdering the cast of Saturday Night Live than I am this particular match. Like, I just can't believe that this is what they have planned for Kurt Angle's swan song. So, like, there has to be a work in place, and if there isn't, I'm going to just run outside away from my TV as WrestleMania is going on and just not even watch the rest of the show.
Listen, I got some free advice for WWE. If anybody who ever works for the WWE or the network is watching this, here goes some free advice. After WrestleMania, no matter what angle you work with Baron Corbin, give the guy 6 months paid leave. Don't fire him. Don't get rid of him. Pay him 6 months to just go away and stay home. Don't show up on SmackDown. Don't show up backstage on anything. Like, if you were a paraplegic, you couldn't get out of a chair, you're stuck. Let him go away and come back like the lone wolf. Not wearing the stupid suit jacket, vest, and the button-down shirt. Come back really mean and almost like an Edge way, where, remember when Edge first debuted, he jumped out of the crowd, whooped somebody's ass, and then jumped back into the crowd and disappeared? Just do that with Corbin. Don't have him speak, and let him beat up heels and faces alike. Go back to the lone wolf thing and market him like that, and maybe you can save some semblance of this poor young man's career, because right now, to no fault of his own, the WWE is running his character into the ground because he has the most heat as a heel, because nobody likes him. And why doesn't anybody like him? Because that's how you wrote him.
I can't argue with you there. I wish they would have had your idea when they first moved him up to the main roster. That would have been great.
That's what they were kind of going for. If you remember, he came out 3 or 4 in one of the Rumbles. and I think Finn Balor eliminated him.
He actually debuted on the main roster in
The Andre the Giant
Memorial Battle Royal, and he won
it. Yeah.
And
did he win?
Yeah, he won it.
Yeah, he won it. He won the thing without any build-up, without even getting a proper entrance to the ring.
And he did it clean.
And
they didn't do anything.
And you know, this is gonna sound crazy, but like I actually predicted, because just why not? I predicted Baron Corbin was gonna win that particular battle royal, and it somehow happened. I don't know how that prediction came true, but it did.
Do you want to touch on the Chad Gable Kurt Angle match on its own, or we could just go over that real quick?
Yeah, we can go over that match. It was a short match, but you know, this is the kind of thing that we were just this is what we were talking about. We're so unimpressed with Baron Corbin and Kurt Angle for his retirement match, and then we go ahead and see Chad Gable versus Kurt Angle, and I guarantee you, even though Chad Gable is mostly a tag team guy, if they would have announced him versus Kurt, people wouldn't even have been that mad. Like that they're going to put on a classic. And even for the little time they were in the ring, it was a great match. Kurt is real stiff still. He can't move much. You know, I could understand it's winding down. It was really sad to see, because he's the wrestling machine that we remember. And even though he had that great run in TNA / Impact / GFW or whatever, he had that run. He was great there too. His matches with Joe and everything. It's just, he's so stiff. Chad really carried him through the match to a really good level and made it a great match.
Very safe too. Very safe. I think that's why Chad was chosen to work with him. They knew that they both come from that freestyle background where muscle memory, when you know somebody's going to slide right, you slide left. When, you know, they had that rapport with each other. So I think it made for a very clean, very safe. And like you said, Chad sold very well for Angle, and he made him look really good when Kurt, doesn't move well at all anymore. You know, I'm going to be happy to see him retire. And not because I dislike Kurt Angle, not at all. I'm going to be happy to see him retire because I don't want to see him get beat up anymore, man. It's over.
Yeah, 2018 showed us a lot of, even though we love wrestlers, we love Kane, we love The Undertaker, we love Triple H, we love Shawn Michaels. Granted, Triple H is still pretty nice. You know, he could go. Yeah. Even Shawn, at Crown Jewel when they did that match, and then, these guys like Kurt and maybe Taker again, I agree. I love them. And we'll always have them in our memories, and we'll always have them on the WWE network for $9.99 a month. But I don't want to see him anymore either, man. I want to see Kurt at least have a pretty good match, have his farewell song, his swan song, do your thing. We love you, but go away. And maybe come back as the GM again if they ever have a GM thing ever happen again, because I was okay with him being a GM for the most part, if there's no Stephanie.
I just want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up that we're coming up on the 50-minute mark, so we might want to start rushing through what's left of Raw and get to SmackDown.
All right. We are gonna see. You should never put me on with James, so me and James could talk our faces off for the next 2 hours. All right. Moving on. We have the Drew McIntyre promo of Roman Reigns. Pretty much letting Roman know, stay home or I will hurt you because nobody cares about you. Do it for your family type promo. And not for nothing, it gave me a little bit of chills. I don't know what it is with Drew McIntyre, but that boy's doing something right.
He's got it, Like we discussed we discussed a lot of Drew earlier, so we could probably make this short. But yeah, Drew is the man. I'm happy to see Roman back, and I'm okay with this match. I'm excited to see a good match at WrestleMania between two good wrestlers, and especially one that came back from the leukemia and he's in remission and everything. It's a good feeling, and I hope they don't use that too much for their build up. But yeah, Drew is the man, and Roman will never get booed again. So
Yeah, maybe the leukemia was probably one of the, in a sick, twisted way, probably a good thing for his career.
At least for his career.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That promo led to a Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre match that was ended by a Lesnar distraction and Seth getting pinned. Lesnar coming back out to earn the other half of his 100K.
Yep.
This time by standing at the top of the ramp and bouncing up and down, causing the distraction of Seth getting the boot to the face and pinned. Overall, a good night of sports entertainment. Storylines were laid. Others were confusing. And Travis Brown finally punched somebody in the face that didn't end up turning around and knocking him out back. Glad to see Travis Brown is doing something with himself. Mr. Rousey is earning his pay.
Yeah, hopefully. I'd like to see more of him. The Drew McIntyre match with Seth was a good match. I think the Claymore is one of the most put over finishers right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were really putting that thing over. And I'm not a fan of how they made Brock come out at the end just to distract. I mean, I know maybe he didn't want to get too physical, but maybe I wouldn't have minded seeing a little bit more of a tease between Drew and Brock because there's something there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, great show. I love the show. I thought that ending was a little bit lower standard than maybe it's just my personal opinion, but yeah, it was
a little underwhelming. A little underwhelming. All right, so if you had to rate the show between 1 and 5, 5 being the greatest thing you ever seen, and 1 being Travis Brown's MMA career, what would you give the show?
With the exception of the sick front kick knockout that he did to Overeem, because I like that. But yeah, I would say about a 3.5 because it was better than average, but there were some spots, like normal that was like, like the Finn Balor thing and some of the ending for me. But a lot of the show for me was good high moments, and I enjoyed it.
Nico, I heard the rating system. One being R. Kelly's future in music, 5 being 5 winning the lottery. What is it to you, brother?
So because I have so many other shows that I'm on, and because I was sick on Monday, I didn't really get a chance to watch Raw. So I can't really give a rating of the show, but I can say that less Travis Brown in your life is usually better. And also, just if Dave Meltzer somehow comes across this, I just want to say something in reference to something he was talking about on a recent podcast. He was questioning the validity of Roman Reigns' cancer treatment because he was able to go shoot a scene in a movie with his cousin The Rock for let's say maybe a month. We don't know which month in this cancer treatment he was able to do that, but he shot a movie. He shot a scene in a movie. And for some reason, Meltzer thought that was a reason to question whether the cancer was actually legit. I have a neighbor who is undergoing the same oral chemo treatment that Roman was going through. So it is a valid treatment, and I really doubt anyone would want to make up cancer for a storyline purpose. So fuck you, Meltzer.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Uncle Dave, I think when he recorded that podcast and started talking about it, like right around the same time or right after that, or maybe even right before that, Roman Reigns had that special on the WWE network. I think it's Untold or whatever, or maybe not Untold, but Chronicle. That's what it is, Chronicle. And he talked about his treatment and how it was legit and he had to take a pill and how, it just made him have arthritis in spots and, there were side effects, but he was able to live with it, especially given the circumstances. So it sucked for Dave to actually put that out there, like right when he was explaining the whole legitimacy of it.
what we take away from this, if somebody says they have cancer or sick and you decide to call them out on it and you're wrong, you're an asshole. Moving on to SmackDown. Oh, so overall, real quick, my man James gave it 3.5 out of 5. I'm going to go with a 3, giving us an average of 3.25 because producer Nico was too busy on a hot date. Talk about he was sick.
No, I was legit sick. I had been on stream for several hours in a row to the point that I was like, I need to lie down. My eyeballs are going to fall out of my head. So,
hey, man, if your eyeballs are going to fall out of your head, you got to do it on my show. I need the ratings, all right?
Sure.
They're not going to see it because he's not showing his face.
No, that's when we got to cut the camera on, and he's looking like this, trying to find his eyeball. It's just gonna be great. All right. Unfortunately, due to work circumstances, like I said earlier on in the pod, I wasn't able to catch all of SmackDown. So my illustrious co-host here, James, is going to take the lead on this. I hope you enjoy his breakdown, and I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents when I get into it. James, take it away, sir.
All right. SmackDown was on Tuesday night live in the Bankers Life Fieldhouse from Indianapolis, Indiana. Tom, Corey, and Saxon was normally there on commentary like they were. And the opening segment was The Miz. He came out, and I was so happy to see him, let me tell you, because I wanted to hear what he had to say after that brutal beatdown that hold on a second, the best in the world, Shane McMahon, beat him down. So Miz comes out, he shows a video of what happened, and he gets really emotional in his promo. He talks about how he did it in front of his father, and how he's just a McMahon, and he's just like his father. He's an asshole, and he noted in this promo he compared his love for wrestling to his love for Shane McMahon. It was weird. But the Miz knows how to talk very well, so he did it in a believable way when he was talking. But it was just one of those promos. It was really nice. He talked about, how much he idolized Shane and how much he wanted to be, it was his friend, and how Shane just turned his back on him. And he said it all came, to say that he was gonna kick his ass at WrestleMania. And
you do a pretty good Miz. I like it.
I like the promo. It's typical Miz stuff. He's good. I am really impressed with the fact that he was able to become a babyface, because he has had a lot of problems in the past with getting that babyface reaction.
There's a reason for that. There's a reason why, and that's because it might have been too manufactured. Whereas when Miz went back to heel, and they had the show Talking Smack that followed SmackDown Live, Miz was able to do his best work on there. He was able to, and he was the heel on that show. He was the type of heel that would lay out truthful points that made you want to side with him. And that's basically what happened here. Is like all the motivation is the same. He is a hard worker. He busts his ass to get to this point in his career, and now the fans respect him for it. And it showed in the reaction. The crowd gave him a standing ovation of respect because what he was saying was true, and also the lines that he was dishing out against Shane, like, "You're not the best in the world, you're the worst," and that was brilliantly said. And like, not only did he say, "You just like every McMahon before you've buried people in the name of bringing your own name up. You've done it to me, and you're also doing it to Kofi." Like, that was the first of many mentions by babyfaces that night of showing their support for Kofi Kingston.
We will talk about that a lot, Nico, because they really, really, you're right, they hammered that home. It was almost like he had to mention it. Like, they told him, and I know that it's scripted, and if Miz can do a scripted promo, but if they told him to just go talk, that's what I want. They mentioned him, they mentioned Kofi, and I'm excited for the Shane McMahon versus Miz match at WrestleMania, and he did his job. He got me amped up for it, and I'm excited.
And it just goes to show you that if you give bullet points to people, but not a full-on script, just let them be themselves and lay out how they would say things like this. It works wonders. It works wonders. And the Miz is the perfect example of that. And yeah, like Shane, he always brings his A game when it comes to WrestleMania. For an old man, he still moves like a young man. And like he has his body, like I don't know if you've seen like his baseball jersey pull up every now and then, but he's jacked. He's jacked.
It's called TRT. HGH.
You know, that could be possible. That could be possible. They do give the part-time wrestlers a little bit more leeway with that sort of stuff. See Brock Lesnar. Yeah, like I always spoke highly of this particular pairing of Miz and Shane when they were a tag team, and now you saw I knew there was going to be a light at the end of the tunnel for this particular pairing, and here it is on the grand stage of them all. Miz is going to get his revenge, not just for himself, but for his dad, for his city, because he was humiliated in front of his hometown, in front of his father. And the life was choked out of him as his father just sat there and watched. And Miz, he got everyone on his side, and that's how good he is at his job.
Very, very, very true, Nico.
True. You know what's scary, man? Nico called this.
Just keep talking.
Nico called this during the Rumble that this angle was going to work. I didn't have any faith in it, honestly.
Well, it just shows how good the Miz is, and I mean, man, like even the Shane's promo last week, like he's like he said, he brings his A game when it's Mania time, and I'm excited. Like the Miz had a good promo. He always does, and they built this match up. Moving on to the next segment. I'm pretty sure this is the next segment. Sasha Banks and Bayley came out on SmackDown Live as a surprise, which is a good thing because they've been getting called out by the Iconics now for a couple weeks. They showed up, and then immediately the Iconics came out. They cut a promo on them, saying, you know, you've been avoiding us. Funny note, when they did the Iconics thing, they shot the camera to Sasha's face, and Sasha's face, she cracked me up because she was just giving him that look like what are you doing? And then it led to a non-title match, tag match, and they had they had a match. It was short. I think they accomplished what they needed to do. The Iconics got a heel roll-up victory from a distraction on Sasha, and it was after a brutal super kick, by the way, that Bayley sold the absolute bejesus out of. I mean, Shawn Michaels sold that thing. Like,
yeah, she did.
So it did its job. I think they're going to have a multi-person tag match for the titles. I'm assuming it's going to be Beth and Natty versus Sasha and Bayley versus
the Iconics.
The Iconics
versus Nia Jax and Tamina
in a fatal four-way tag.
This could be a really great. Oh, go ahead, Adonis.
Like a fatal four-way elimination. You get pinned, you go away, and the remaining teams stay. Or you think it's just going to be fatal four-way, first person to get the pin?
I think it'd be just fatal four-way because they just had the Elimination Chamber, and I think that would be too similar to that. I mean, I wouldn't put it past WWE.
Okay, first a quick correction. This actually wasn't a surprise because they announced that they were going to be appearing on SmackDown on Twitter. Either a few hours beforehand, or maybe the night, or maybe just like an hour after Raw went off the air.
Okay.
Well, it was a surprise to me.
It was a surprise to me because I don't use Twitter.
But there are going to be a lot of multi-person matches at Mania if we are to believe certain rumors. So, in order for this particular match to stand out, with the Boston Hug Connection versus Tamina and Nia Jax versus the Divas of Doom versus the Iconics, I feel like this would be a great candidate to put a ladder match stipulation in place.
I'd be okay with that.
Ooh, I like Nico.
And
you start watching my
they
wrestling.
normally have a ladder match at WrestleMania. I mean, they've intercontinental ladder match. Like they've had it a few years, so that's not off of the books. That they've done that plenty of times.
Mm-hmm. Give it a little gimmick, give it a little push. And we didn't mention on the Raw breakdown, Beth Phoenix coming out of retirement, huh? How about that? Not for nothing. She looks like she's in shape. Maybe the time off, her body healed up. She's feeling good.
Right. I know she's happy too. I listen to the Edge and Christian, the E&C Pod of Awesomeness quite a bit. And sometimes she goes on there because, she's married to Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge. And she talks on there about the business and how much she loves it. She has so much passion for the business. I'm happy to see her. And Bayley showed that shove. That she sold that shove too. She shoved Bayley.
But listen, Beth, whether she's actively wrestling or not, she is always going to be in shape. And she prided herself on being one of the most powerful women on the roster during the bikini model era of things. So she's gonna she probably knew in the back of her head there's gonna be a moment where I'm gonna want to come back, and when I do, I'm gonna want to be as strong and as athletic as I possibly can be. And she shows how jacked she is. When she first popped back up and she wasn't wearing a blazer for commentary, I had a similar reaction to when Dean Ambrose came back from his 9 months off on the shelf. It was like, oh, crap, she's jacked. She could murder somebody.
For sure, man. Beth Phoenix. Go figure.
Honestly, as far as the Iconics go, those two are comedy gold to me. I don't know what it is. I can't see them without laughing. The whole iconic thing, as cheesy and as stupid as it is, I don't know why it makes me laugh. I don't know if it's the idiot 12-year-old boy in me that gets a crack up out of it, but they're ridiculous. And I love a little bit of ridiculous in my wrestling. I could take it.
They have the potential to be sort of like what William Regal was, in that William Regal, he took wrestling very seriously, but at the same time, he didn't take himself very seriously. So he was able to put on great matches, but at the same time, you gave him a comedy angle, and he would go above and beyond for it. And the Iconics, I think they realize that they have something that gets applause, but also gets some laughs. So regardless of who they're playing towards, they can get a reaction out of people, which is what they want. That's how you get over in wrestling.
Yeah, yes. I will say this, and then I'll let James wrap up this segment. The little bit of SmackDown I was able to watch, I did see this match, and I will say this. You can tell that these women have rarely worked together. There was a lot of sloppiness to this match.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that goes with a lot of the Iconic style. They're not that in tune in the ring. Not saying that they're bad. They're okay. They got their good spots, but they're no Sasha and Bayley. And you can always tell when someone doesn't have a lot of experience and they're wrestling against Bayley. Sasha does more of a job carrying people than Bayley does normally, but I think it's gonna be a benefit that this is a multi-team match for that reason. All in all, good. It built up the Iconics. It gave the Iconics a legitimate, point when they say we want a title shot, because they pinned the champion now, so they're a shoo-in now.
Yeah, and another thing I was saying last week was I wanted to see them build this tag team division with real tag teams, not just plug together people. And this gave me that, gave it a little legitimacy to the tag team division as a whole. And overall, I was happy with it. Like I said, the match was a little sloppy. The timing was a little off. But I'm just going to chalk that up to these women haven't really worked together much. And I'm pretty sure it was thrown together quick in the back. So overall, I enjoyed it.
Right. Well, the next segment was pretty short. After that I'm going to talk about is Ray was backstage talking to one of the lovely ladies back there. And he announced that because he pinned Samoa Joe last week, he's going to fight or wrestle him for the United States Championship at WrestleMania. That's exciting. I hope that's on the main card. It'll probably be on the pre-show. But Ray has just been, it's like he's de-aging. I don't know what's going on. But crazy thing after that, if you really want to talk about that, his son showed up. Dominic. He introduced Dominic, and Dominic is twice his size. Now, I heard that he showed up in Lucha Underground a little bit when Ray was there, so that people have seen him. But man, that kid, he's soft spoken just like his daddy. But man, he was big. Like if you watch it back, you'll see the camera kind of back up and scale away because he's getting into the shot, and he's huge.
And he also cut a really good promo. They gave him like 30 seconds to say some stuff, and he just talked about, Joe's a bully. Papa Ray has been dealing with bullies all of his life, and at WrestleMania it'll be no different. And there was conviction to it. Like Dominic, I know he's been putting a lot of work to follow in his dad's footsteps, and he's going to be at ringside for Mania, which is what they announced during that interview. And also found this out this morning. I read something about Rey Mysterio has been looking to file a trademark for the name Prince Mysterio. So it looks like Dominic might be NXT bound unless he's already signed with somebody else. But I feel like they like Rey being back in the company. That's big for Dominic in that, like, he now has an in. And, you say what you will about indie guys versus legacy guys sort of getting that way and getting that additional help with their foot through the door. But if Dominic's been putting the work before he decided to see if he could try this avenue, then rightfully so. He deserves an opportunity to prove himself. Give him a tryout in Orlando and see how he does.
Why not? You know what I'd love to see? No matter how the match goes at WrestleMania, whether Ray wins the title or not, I'd like to see Joe perform a post-match beatdown on Ray and maybe put the coquina clutch on him. And then while that's happening, have Dom come over the barricade, step in the ring, have Joe get up, and have him do a standoff because he's probably taller than Joe. So have them do the standoff, and I think that'd be a great moment for WrestleMania. I think
Dom is reportedly 6'6", so he's like a foot taller than his dad.
I just read 6'4", but either way, he's a big kid.
Yeah, he's it's crazy how big that kid is, but yeah,
now,
I'm excited.
Let me ask you a question. They trademarked this Prince Mysterio thing, right? Does he wear a mask?
Well, we've seen his face, so I don't think it would make sense, but I think they might do something like with what they did with Andrade, where eventually he started coming out to the ring with his mask and then taking it off before he got in the ring as sort of like a tribute to his past heritage as a mask-wearing luchador. So maybe Dominic will come out wearing one of his dad's old masks and then taking it off before he gets in the ring, sort of like as a tribute to his family lineage, kind of like with Charlotte and the robes.
Yeah, or get the rub from the crowd, take the mask off, and give it to a kid.
Yeah, I definitely keep the legacy going.
Ray used to do that. Ray did that. He had a mask over a mask. If you guys,
yeah, he used to take the one off and give it to a kid.
I remember that. He still kind of does that every now and then, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he does it on pay-per-views.
Oh yeah. Well, moving on past Ray and his huge, gargantuous son. We actually had a segment with Kevin Owens. It was new, and I know he's done this before, but it looked newer because it was new graphics for a show. It's the KO show, and he was highlighting Charlotte versus Becky. They both came out to talk straight trash to each other, and it was a good segment. Kevin Owens, he was playing this instigating type of role where he was trying to he was trying to be nice, and he was trying, but he kept saying things, and it was just kind of slightly adding a little bit of fuel.
Underhanded on each side.
Yeah.
I was able to watch this segment before I had to run out to go to work, and the best part of it was, as he was saying stuff, he kept backing his chair up, and at the last minute, he's outside the ropes. Hold on.
And he got out of the ring.
That was great.
That was great. But what happened after that was, I thought, was wonderful. And I'll tell you why. It was, now we've seen a lot of Charlotte and Becky beatdowns now.
Yep.
We've seen a few. So the initial the initial fight in the brawl wasn't like as surprising or as, you know, as monumental as it normally would have been. But what I really loved about it was they started smacking around officials and security and referees. And when it got to that moment, it was bringing it onto that Ronda Rousey level where it was like, okay, they just don't care. You know, the build up to this match in total, there's a lot of things that I'm not okay with what they did with Becky, but I'm willing to look past it. You know, Becky got a huge reaction. Charlotte, she's playing her role well. She's a heel. She's nasty. No one even, she's playing that, you know, that shoehorn character pretty well that Becky keeps calling her, for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed how in this segment they started beating down some of the staff. It brought that level to it where it's like, okay, what's gonna happen? You know, we don't know. And as much as I would have rather have seen this play out on SmackDown, or maybe like some other way, and they could have gave this time to Asuka to build up her match, I would have been a lot more happy, because with this particular show, we already knew we had a gauntlet match. We knew we weren't going to have a lot of time in the first hour to build this stuff up. They didn't do anything with Asuka, and they did something. They could have had this on Raw. But I enjoyed the segment in itself, but I thought it was misplaced being on SmackDown, honestly.
Okay, so they announced after SmackDown went off the air that there is going to be a fatal four-way between Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, Carmella, and Naomi. Winner's going to face Asuka at Mania. So they at least have something for her to do, and it's either going to be Sonya or Mandy. We know that much.
But they could have switched it, Nico. They could have put that segment actually on SmackDown and had.
They could have.
I get it. Becky and Charlotte are going to draw more, but I mean, come on, like that was a good time. They could have gave that, and they could have built that up. I mean, it's so uneventful in our minds already, that fatal four-way, just the number one contender. It's like, okay.
I don't disagree with you. And again, this is mostly this is a SmackDown suffering a casualty of Raw's recent booking.
I mean,
again, not knowing what the right hand is doing.
Honestly, at this point, if they're gonna be wrestling for the Raw Women's Championship, I don't think these segments have a place on SmackDown. Yeah, they may be SmackDown, competitors, but you're not going for the SmackDown belt.
But here's the thing:
keep those I know what you're saying. You want the build, and you want your ratings for SmackDown to stay up because that's what Becky and Charlotte are from.
That's actually not what I was going to say. What I was going to say is because it was on SmackDown, it was better organized and better showcased than it would have been on Raw.
Because Raw is they run around like. I recently went to a Raw in Grand Rapids, and they were still writing the show when we were in the first hour. Like, it happens a lot. You're right, Nico. I understand. I really just want the SmackDown Women's Championship and the Raw Women's Championship to be placed on an equal level. I know it's probably not going to be, but
I agree. And
I think the whole Charlotte angle of shoehorning Charlotte into the triple threat is a waste of Charlotte. I think if you really wanted to build that SmackDown Women's title, use the angle of trying to shoehorn Charlotte in and let Asuka interject into that and push Charlotte out of that match and put Charlotte into a match with her, and use the angle, you beat me last year at WrestleMania, this time I'm the champion, I'm going to get that back.
I mean, I would have been and everything. I agree.
I'm still on the belief that Charlotte wasn't necessarily shoehorned in because they did tease things as early as TLC for that three-way match. And also, like, again, I mentioned this last week, it helps to have a third person simply because, like, we never know what's going to happen with injuries. But I'll finish off my thoughts on this segment with this. Kevin Owens has great comedic timing.
Yes.
And once again, this was, I believe, the second time of the night that a babyface mentioned wishing luck to Kofi Kingston.
Yep, definitely. And a lot of people are doing that for this match. and then you'll start. You could see where it's going. At least for me, when I was watching this episode, Nico, and I kept noticing everyone, getting on the Kofi train. I started to see the seeds being planted for what happens at the end of the night. Speaking of the Kofi thing, the very next segment with AJ doing a promo for his match against Randy Orton, he also gave Kofi a shout out at the end of his promo, and it was a very short promo. I just wanted to highlight how he took the whole, built this. This is the house that AJ Styles built. To this is the house that I'm gonna tear down the house. In his promo, it wasn't as fire spitting as their shoot promos basically that they were cutting last week, but it served its purpose. It was short, it served its purpose, and it did what it had to do. And he shouted out for Kofi.
So and with all these shout outs by faces and the support that Kofi Kingston has been getting, we've made a lot of references to how this mirrors the Daniel Bryan run for WrestleMania 30. So I think I know where they're going with this next week, but I'll save that for once we get through this gauntlet match breakdown.
Right. Which, in the gauntlet match, which is probably we're gonna talk more about this than anything else because it was the whole second hour of the show. Brian came out, he cut a promo. He's been calling Kofi a B+ player, which is just crazy because you think about the full circle of how he went, and it goes along with what you're talking. I have a feeling I know what you're thinking, Nico, and it reminds me of that whole thing. He calls him a B+ player, and then the New Day interrupts him and gets a huge pop. Big E, I love that. Well, so gauntlet match, it was incredible. I liked it. I liked the first one better because this one was predictable in a sense. We knew kind of what was going to happen, but Kofi, man, that guy can go. He starts off with Sheamus. They have a good, solid match. I'm sure it was going around for about 10, 15 minutes. I had a feeling the first match was going to go lengthy, and I'm pretty sure, Nico, correct me if I'm wrong, did he beat him with the SOS?
No, Sheamus he beat with the Trouble in Paradise.
Yeah, and it was the next one. Yeah, so he beat Sheamus with the Trouble in Paradise. And then Cesaro was already out there, so he's immediately going to be wrestling. And kind of your typical Cesaro Kofi match would go. It's a little lengthy, but not too much. And then, yes, he ends up putting him down with the SOS. I remember that. Yes,
you got Cesaro with the SOS, and also just. The commentary team made a big deal as to how long these first couple falls in the gauntlet match were actually going. Like, how is Kofi going to keep this up with 3 more people left to go? And Byron and Todd, they were super on. Is it Todd or Tom Phillips? I'm not sure, but they were super high on Kofi Kingston's resolve and willingness to keep fighting on. Byron even made a point of having to work twice as hard for half as much, which is kind of how things are for people of color in America, sadly, depending on where you live and what you work in. But Corey Graves, being the heel commentator, in a sense, he was like, Kofi should just give up, otherwise he's not going to make it to WrestleMania at all. So in a way, he's trying to be a heel, but at the same time, he's given like the reason as to why someone would want to give up, like fight another day. So a lot of story being told with just these first 2 falls of the gauntlet.
Right. And commentary has really been doing a good job lately. I don't like Byron Saxton a lot, but that line that you said, I can appreciate that line. The commentary does a good job to put over. And another thing that did a good job to put over this whole resolve thing was the next match when Rowan came out, because he ended up taking a different route, Nico. He decided to not have a regular match with Kofi. He decided to take the DQ victory and just brutalize him outside of the ring. I believe he hit him with a chair, and then he put the face palm. What is it called? It's called like the iron claw. He put the iron claw through the announce table. Didn't even move the monitors. Like, come on, where's the respect?
I think that if you use headcanon, like that was probably instructed by Daniel Bryan. He was like, don't win, but instead just beat the ever-loving crap out of this guy so that he can't survive when Joe comes out.
They did that with Seth and Drew, I believe, in the Iron Man match when Seth was in his Iron Man match against Dolph. Drew came out and like brutalized him, and it gave, you know, the DQ point to Seth. But I mean, it just brutalized him, and there was a strategy. So I can totally see that being a strategy, Nico, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they, you know, they're putting it over. He goes to an announce table, and then we go, you know, they cut to commercial, and it's like, what is he gonna do? So, you know, then Samoa Joe comes out, and he has to find a way to wrestle Samoa Joe. And I mean, you start thinking about these matchups, it's like Samoa Joe, he's a certified beast, United States champion over here. I kind of wish they would have used a different, maybe someone else, because he had the U.S. title. It kind of buries it a little bit, but it's okay. Time with that title.
That U.S. title is being buried.
Yeah. So he rolls up Joe, and then the same thing there, Nico. They've been telling this story all night with these two, the third and fourth match. You know, he beats Joe, and then Joe chokes him out with the coquina clutch through the ropes, unconscious. Kofi's just laying out in the middle of the ring, not moving at all. And then all of a sudden, Randy Orton hears voices in his head and comes up to the ring for the final match. Well,
if we go to commercial break after that, and I actually have a slight problem with this. I feel like it would have been great television if they had shown Randy just walking to the ring, moving Kofi's lifeless corpse into the middle of the ring, and just going for pinfall. 1, 2, 2.5, 2 9/10. Shoulder pops up right at the last second. And Randy's just like, what? Like, imagine how crazy the crowd would have. The crowd probably, who knows? That might have actually happened in the arena, and the people watching on TV just didn't get to see it.
Right. That way, I would have liked that. I would totally have liked that. That would have been good. I guess, yeah, the match was so short with Samoa Joe, they probably couldn't put the commercial too much in there. Knowing them, they probably already put 2 commercials in there. Who knows with them? There's so many commercials. So, yeah, I agree with you, Nico. And then Randy Orton comes out and he's having his final match. And at this point, the crowd is still hot, which, you know, that's a good testament to Kofi Kingston being able to keep this crowd alive with his resolve. It was great. Randy Orton goes for an RKO, beautifully countered into a roll-up. Kofi Kingston pins him 1, 2, 3, and the place just becomes unglued.
Now, this was a poetic victory, by the way, because who was the guy who derailed Kofi's push back in the aughts?
Randy Orton.
It was Randy Orton. Like, the backstage drama going on, and it prevented Kofi from getting to the main event scene, if we are to believe what we've been told. And so, and also the story in which this resurrection of Kofi's push, like AJ beat Kofi in the first gauntlet match before Kofi could get his hands on Randy. And then I can't remember who eliminated Randy from the Elimination Chamber, but I think it might have been Kofi. It was Kofi. So it's just like, okay, so we have 2 situations now where Kofi has finally gotten one on Orton, but the important one was to get the win over Bryan during that particular match. So now we're here at this point in time last night. Randy was the final hurdle to get to Bryan and to get to Mania. He finally crossed that hurdle, beating Randy Orton and getting to the big stage. And like,
it was 9:53 after that. So
yeah, and you see how like Big E and Xavier rush into the ring to hug him, hold him up over their shoulders in celebration. The Usos have the pancake plate, and they're joined by everybody backstage watching a monitor sideways. For some reason, people watch TVs backstage in wrestling.
Nico, sorry to cut you off. I wanted to make mention of that. If you noticed throughout the gauntlet match, I was actually going to talk about this and I just forgot. the watching of the monitors, it was getting like, first it was just the Usos, you know, with the New Day, and then the next time they showed it, there was more, and then the next time they showed the shot, there was more, and eventually everyone was watching Kofi. So that shot was building and building and building, Nico. I just wanted to throw that out there because I thought that was a nice touch too. It just built it up on everyone mentioning Kofi throughout the show, mentioning, you know, go get him Kofi. And then it was like, not only was the whole crowd invested, everyone backstage was invested in watching. We were all watching. It was just, like you said, it was a poetic moment.
And it's because, like, we know of Kofi's journey. He's been with the company guy for 11 years. He never complained. He's probably mentored a lot of the people who surpassed him in terms of getting pushes for the main event scene. And now they're like, okay, finally the guy who gave me some help every now and then, the guy who's been putting smiles on everyone's faces for so long, he's finally up there. He's finally getting there. And you want to root for that Cinderella story. To bring up an MMA moment, it's kind of like when Mark Hunt was fighting Fabricio Werdum for the heavyweight title in Mexico City. We were at 40 years old and having a negative MMA record, people were rooting for him to finally get back up there, and he almost did. He almost made it. Sadly, I think a flying knee derailed those chances, but with Kofi and this being a scripted environment, we can actually get what we want. We can get that Cinderella story, and we did. And then Vince McMahon crushes our dreams.
Yeah, No Chance in Hell. It's funny that his music is called No Chance in Hell, because he comes out to like, you've got no chance in hell. And then he says, Kofi, you did great, whatever. You're going to WrestleMania if you can beat this one more man. And then, you know, you see the Recycle logo on the screen, and here comes Daniel Bryan and his vegan belt that he made. He goes down there, and when this happened, Nico, Big E and like Kofi, you could notice he was tired. You know, he wasn't doing it. You could see disappointment on his face. But Xavier and Big E they were going off in that ring because they were selling it hard. Like, how can you do this to him? You know, and yeah, the match itself, it was what you expected. I mean, you had 5 minutes left of the show, so it went short. Kofi's exhausted. He's tired. Daniel Bryan's fresh. All warmed up, ready to go, no problems. And after a few back and forths, Kofi was still fighting. He actually hit a SOS, and Daniel Bryan kicked out. That was a good little moment to saying, oh, he might get it. But all in all, he ended up hitting him with the flying knee, pinned in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. And SmackDown just went off the air after that. And I was rightfully so disappointed. I honestly thought that Kofi was going to pull out one more miracle.
And I can only imagine how the crowd who stayed for 205 Live, how they were feeling by the time that Mike Kanellis got in the ring. I mentioned that they've been going through a lot of the beats that they did with Daniel Bryan for WrestleMania 30. Like the mentioning of the B-plus player, the just not being good enough, the people like you. For Daniel Bryan, it was size. For Kofi, it's color. People like you don't get to be world champion. And so what's next? What's the next beat for this story as the people backstage, Kofi's fellow locker room, gets behind him? For Bryan, it was Occupy Raw.
I knew you were going there with the Occupy Raw thing, Nico. It's possible that they could do something similar. I don't see anything else that they really can do at this point. Everything that they put in front of Kofi, every obstacle he's jumped over, he's hurdled over every single one of them.
Here's where I'm going with this. Because you can't really repeat what they did with the Yes Movement for Occupy Raw, what instead you do is Kofi gives one more emotional plea. The New Day and Kofi give one more emotional plea, standing in the middle of the ring. Give me my shot. Vince McMahon says no, and then you hear someone else's music and they join Kofi in the ring. Then you hear another person's music and they join Kofi in the ring. And then the entire SmackDown babyface locker room joins Kofi in the ring and say, if you don't give this man what he's rightfully earned, we're walking out. We're not going to Mania. We want that paycheck, but we will go to bat for this guy because he has put in the work. He has done everything you have asked, and you have screwed him over time and time again.
Yeah, maybe even Nico have like a couple of guys come out and announce that beforehand, like you said, and like each one, like someone to come out and then he'll say, if you don't give this, then I'm quitting. And Vince be like, oh, you're replaceable. Go ahead, quit. I don't care. And then more come out and more, and eventually to get to the point where everybody rushes, and then like he'll be overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, Nico.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. We have our speculation for next week. And Adonis, anything you want to add? Because
the only thing I want to add is I think I found my new co-host. If he wants to be part of it, I would love to have James as my new co-host.
All right. Well, yeah, we could talk. Well, definitely, we can talk.
Yeah, cool. The only thing I have to add to the whole thing, and it's not even the Kofi thing, it's going back to the whole Asuka thing, is they got to start building this women's division outside of Becky and Charlotte. As far as Kofi goes, I'm pulling for the dude. That's what I want. I want to see him hold that belt up at WrestleMania. I think years of hard work and dedication have to pay off at some point. And if there's no hope for Kofi, where's the hope for the rest of us, right?
Right. You know how I think that they can pay that off really good? I don't want to hurt Daniel Bryan's character at all, but Nico, you're going to laugh at this. I think it would be great if during the WrestleMania match, Kofi hits him with the Trouble in Paradise and then waits exactly 23 seconds before he pins Daniel Bryan. And then pins him 1, 2, 3, full circle. Booker T can be happy.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That's the reality of wrestling.
Wow.
23 seconds.
I think someone counted it 19. That's how long Triple H waited after he pedigreed to Booker T to pin him. That was
my only thought is, like, how many I'm wondering if, because that match, if there are 17 matches on the card in total, and you were to give 23 extra seconds before you went for the pinfall, I think the crowd might take that the wrong way of like, come on, freeze it. It's been a long day. I see what you're doing here, but I would have appreciated it at any other time and place, not right now. But having said that, I want to finish things off before we go to plugs with I want to leave you both with this one question. Out of the 3 main events, Seth versus Brock for the Universal title, Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda for the Raw Women's title, and when it's official, Bryan versus Kofi for the WWE Championship. Which do you think is most worthy right now to close out the show?
Emotionally, okay, Becky and Ronda, that trifecta, I think that goes on after Seth and Brock, and you can't have Kofi win that belt before the other two, because it's going to suck the emotional air out of the room and nobody's going to be invested in those. You have to leave that Kofi match for last.
James?
I would have to agree. I'm going to go with what I want versus what I think. What I want is what you said. I would really love the WWE Championship match to be the last match. Now, I would argue before that I would want the Becky, Charlotte, Ronda 3-way to be last. I just think that some of their fizzle got taken away a little bit, not because of any particular reason on their end. But I wouldn't be upset if they still close the show. But I think that they will. I want Kofi and Bryan too, with possibly making it a triple threat with KO. I don't think they will, but they might. I think that is what I would want. But what I think is going to happen is I think that they're going to give it to the triple threat 3-way for the Raw Women's Championship, just because Ronda Rousey's there.
And
yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't think or feel that Brock and Seth need to close out the show. I don't, I know other people may be highly invested in it. The only one that I have any emotional ties to is I really want to see the women do well. And I really want to see Kofi close the show, hold that belt up, the confetti come down. Or, well, it's in the stadium outdoors, so you can't do the confetti thing. But you know what I mean.
What I'll say with this is, my heart should want Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda to go on last, because that's what we've been build for months. Whether or not they made it official, that's what we were being teased for months, is the first ever female main event of WrestleMania, and it was going to be these three badass women going at it in the ring. And then Kofi just stole all of our hearts.
And it was an accident too. It wasn't even on purpose. Like, Mustafa Ali was supposed to get that shot, but he didn't. He had that concussion. I believe it was a concussion. He had issues.
Yeah, it was a concussion.
And then Kofi got put in the spot, which was also poetic because of what happened to him with his Elimination Chamber match with Edge, which they actually talked about on their podcast. It was hilarious. But yeah, and then he gets put in, and man, I don't know. Like,
all right. So before we close out the show and go to plugs, James, Nico, if you had to rate this SmackDown from 1 to 5, we all know what the 1 is. We all know what the 5 is. What would you guys give it?
I would give it a 4. I'm going to give it a 4. It was a solid show. I don't know if I would ever get anybody above that unless it was incredible. But yeah, 4 for me, because even the first hour was nice, doing some nice build-ups, with the exception of Asuka and the Women's Championship. But that gauntlet match served its purpose. It did what it needed to do, and hopefully we can get the payoff we deserve as wrestling fans.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a 4.5, simply because I'm not thinking about what we didn't get. I'm thinking about what we did get, and I give when it comes to people botching, I give them a little bit of leeway. So, like, again, you laid out the points of like why Peyton and Billy Kay might not have had the best chemistry wrestling Bayley and Sasha, simply because, like, they're not on the same brand. They don't get to work with each other often. So it's a matter of just not being familiar with each other's style, really. If there were any botches that were like really noticeable in that match, I wasn't really noticing them that much. And like, I enjoy their work. And I'm never going to give SmackDown a bad rating, for one thing. So 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5 for me.
5. And from what I was able to see of it and take in, I'll give it a solid 3.5.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, everybody out there, this has been our Raw and SmackDown breakdown here on Combat Wrestling Network. James, where can the people find you?
You guys can catch me on Facebook, just like any regular human being these days. I have my Facebook, James Walter Berryman III. Don't spell out the third. It's just 3 I's. Somehow that spells third. Yeah, look me up. Send me friend requests. I have some things in store for the future, and when they come, I'm excited. You'll be excited. Everyone will be excited.
Awesome. Nico, do we even have to ask where we can find you? You're on so many podcasts. You say it all the time. But Nico, where can they find you?
Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli. That's NicoSuaveRegoli. You can find me over on Dedicated to Art with Case Cornelius and Christopher Doman. The social media for Facebook and Instagram is at D2A Channel. Over there, I'm part of their Schmodown Reactions, the Who Cares Anyway podcast every Friday night live. And we did do a Star Wars Resistance recap show called Viva la Resistance, but Star Wars Resistance just had its season finale, so I don't have to do that anymore for a couple months. You can also find me over on Multiplex Entertainment. That's the name of the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. The Twitter is at MultiplexYT. The Instagram is Multiplex Entertainment Network. The TeePublic is just Multiplex. Buy our awesome shirts. Later on tonight, Zaddy Smith and I have our weekly Arrowverse and Inner Geekdom discussion show called Crisis on Earth Plex. So check that out later on tonight live as well. And Kane McMillan actually has me working on a very special art project for if you're going to the meetup in Chicago, which I am not, but if you are, you might see something I made and you'll be very impressed with it. And finally, right here at Combat Wrestling Network, that's the name of the YouTube channel. Combat Wrestling Trivia is the name of the Facebook group. And the poorly made Twitter account is at Combat Wrestling, the number 2. There is no letter G in there. So just if you like wrestling trivia, if you like wrestling overall, come find us on those places.
And as far as I go, you can find me here in the Combat Wrestling Network, where I'll be hosting the show, hopefully with my new co-hosts, James, Walter, Berryman III. That's 3 I's, don't spell out the third. I am your host, Adonis Nazario, the nasty one. You can find me on Facebook at Adonis Nazario. You could also find me on Multiplex, where I'll be answering stupid nerd questions and fandom. I'm supposed to be on something in Full Metal sooner or later, but check them out. They're also a great bunch of guys over there. You can probably find me there. And in the next couple of weeks, I will be dropping the 12 to 6 Elbow MMA podcast, where I'll be discussing everything that happens inside the cages of Bellator, UFC, Titan FC, Legacy. I dive into all that shit. We all know why it's called 12 to 6, because it's illegal, and we all know how I live my life. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Once again, from the bottom of my heart, Nico, thank you for putting this together. James, thank you for joining me. I hope to have you on again next week. It's been fun. It's been cool. It's been a lot of things. We are out this thing. Deuces.